Lost one for Odell Beckham Jr. Got it down. Touchdown. 1st and 10. Need to get something going, and that's not the way to start it. Aaron Donald says hello. Pressure is picked up. Kyler. Did he get rid of it? It's intercepted. It's David Long into the end zone for the touchdown. Troy Reeder got the hit on Murray. Nearly had him for the safety for 2. Instead, it's 6, and it's a Rams touchdown. Off the fingertips and intercepted. Marquise Copeland. Here's Odell Beckham Jr. He wants to throw it. Got a man down the sideline. It's Cam Akers. 1st down at the 1. Come turning around. Off the turf and into the end zone. Touchdown Rams.
Welcome, everyone, to a post-season edition of the East Coast Rams podcast. I am your host, Ashton Spencer, with my great co-host, Zac Meir. How is everything going with you?
Everything's going great. You know, such a big win for the team, and especially to the rest of the fan base. Going in from last week with a tough loss from the 49ers. It kind of brought a little damper to this week. It brought a little bit more pressure to the game, but the whole team was firing on all cylinders, and the stadium was rocking with the Rams fans. To be honest, I was a little worried about that, the possibility of the number of Rams fans coming in, but man, the Rams fans really showed up, and came out and represented their team so well, and man, I don't know much more I can say about this win.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Coliseum was a good home field, but it was never a true home field advantage, right? We didn't get a lot of offsides from it. We didn't get a lot of jumps. But SoFi, I've been there. When it's loud, it's loud. It was disappointing to see the turnout for the 49ers game, but this kind of re-encouraged me that hopefully if we have to play them in the NFC Championship, which let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but if we do, we would be hosting that, and we got to do better than that if we're going to beat the 49ers and kind of help actually provide a home field advantage going further into the playoffs and future seasons.
For sure. But it was as dominating win that we got last night. It's something that we were hoping for, we were waiting for, and what a way to show the world just how dominant the Rams can be when you're playing against a great team like the Cardinals. I mean, yes, Kyler Murray didn't look like his best, but they are still great. They're still great offense. They're still a great defense. You had J.J. Watt back in the mix, and he brought a lot of pressure to the game. And I know we're going to deep dive into it soon, but I'm just so pumped for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just going into this game, it was a very, very anxious feeling the way we ended that 49ers game. And just started out hot. This team, just all phases, came out, and it was the most complete team effort. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But Zac, let's first start off the pod by wishing Budda Baker a speedy recovery and just prayers out for him. That was such a just very, very hard hit. It was unfortunate. No one likes to see other players, or really, if you're a decent human being, you shouldn't root for other players to get hurt. It's atrocious. It's their livelihood. No one wants to see someone else's livelihood just taken away. Most of the time of no fault of their own. Like, it was just a bad angle, and Cam Akers had no idea. I know some people got a little upset at him. I think that's silly. Just like, Budda Baker, hopefully it looked like the injury wasn't as bad as it appeared on the field, and I'm just praying that's the case and that he can be up and playing at 100% next season.
For sure. Definitely it was a hard hit. I mean, when you go back and look at it, there was no fault on either one of the players. It was, they were both going down. It just happened that Buda Baker's helmet kind of hit really hard against Cam Akers' chest and his shoulder pads. And yeah, it was a hard hit. You just see him fumble and just kind of twist and fall to the ground and just kind of go limp for a minute there. um, kind of looking at the media, the Twitterverse, it seems like he's doing all right. He was able to give the thumbs up that he's able to feel everything, and right now just going through kind of a probably more intensive concussion protocol than most who go through that protocol go with.
All right, Zach, let's go ahead and move on into going through the previous game and its highlights. Really, the first half had a lot of drives, Zach. A little surprising. Uh, Cardinals come out, 3 plays, 3 and out, punt. Rams come out, not much better. Really, 4 plays. They get 28 yards. They avoid the 3 and out, but then they have to punt not much later.
And that, I mean, in that we really saw some good stuff going there. I mean, they were doing the run. That's what we wanted them to see. We had Sony Michel went for let's see, there was 35 yards that Sony Michel got, which
Great run.
that was the opening drive for the Rams. Yes, they've got the 3 and out. The defense pushed them out. Rams come out strong. You move the ball 35 yards, and then we kind of falter there.
Yeah, that penalty on Higby kind of hurt us a lot, and I feel like any time, especially in the first quarter, we're really bad at like getting good drives going, and then the second we're about to get momentum, and you feel like, yeah, we're gonna score this drive, they get a penalty on themselves. Um, don't get me started on the officiating on this game. I'm not saying every flag on us wasn't fair. It felt like until the third quarter they were just calling holding calls on our O line and none on theirs, and it was aggravating to all hell.
Yeah,
Um,
and the officiating just was weird in this game. It almost made it seem like we were putting, actual officials with like brand new officials, because it seemed like every time there was anything, a touchdown, a weird kind of catch or something, like it always took them so much longer to discuss and figure out what was going to be the call, than anything.
yeah, especially we'll break this down in a second, but especially on that touchdown by Stafford, I got so furious how they called that. And let's remind everyone, we won this game. We won this game, so it's not like we're pinning a loss on the refs. I'm saying it was atrocious, and the Rams arguably should have been up higher in this game if it wasn't for a few really very flaky calls. So going back to the game, uh, the Rams end up punting after going back in that drive. Cardinals come back and they have another 3 and out, get negative yard there. So they only have 3 yards after 2 drives. That's pretty good defense. The Rams end up having a really, really good drive after that. OBJ catches a really, really beautiful dime to from Stafford to him. Zach, what did you make of that touchdown?
Again, it's one of those things where Cooper Cup wasn't really wasn't really accessible really in this game, and I think that was the Cardinals' plan. It was kind of to make sure that he was always double covered or even triple covered at times. So OBJ was clearly going to be the person who was going to be dominating this game on the receiver end of things. And that short pass that he did for 4 yards, just he knew what was happening. I mean, that was a quick throw, and Stafford just had full confidence. He just lopped it up, and OBJ just got it, grabbed it kind of like from behind the defender and pulled it in 2 feet in. It was a great pass. I mean, it was such a good feeling. Stafford first playoff that's hoping for a win, and then this was OBJ's first touchdown in the postseason. So Great performance by both of those players.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely a beautiful corner throw, even better catch. Those are the types of plays Stafford needs to make while playing mistake-free football for us to really, really have a great shot of winning every game, and he definitely did that this game. So moving on, the Rams end up causing another 3-and-out with negative 11 yards. So if you add that up, that's negative 8 yards in their first three drives. Again, defense just was swarming all over Cardinals. Cardinals had no clue on what to do. I believe that's with the weird double forward pass was that drive. And again, Cliff Kingsbury had some really weird play calling this whole game. I
Yeah,
know.
that penalty pass on the illegal four pass. I don't even know what was. I mean, it would have been a great play if they actually pulled it off, because I mean they had everyone kind of moving forward, and I think we even did our own version of that coming into later down the road. But man, yeah, that was just a weird play. Just they just seemed desperate at that point. They were already we were at negative 5 yard or negative 10 plus yards now, and it just seemed like they were just be already desperate. I mean, this wasn't even the end of the first quarter, and they were already trying to do things that were just like, I don't know. I don't know. It just, again, like I said, that just seemed like a desperate moment to do like that kind of a weird play.
Yeah, I understand wanting to do trick plays in playoff matches. That's perfectly fine. It was just the fact that you're only down 7. Yeah, you haven't done much on offense the whole first quarter, but why try to show your hand when you're only down 1 score? When you have a great play that could potentially, like, the goal of that play is to get a touchdown, right?
Yep.
It doesn't make much sense. So they end up punting it away. The Rams come back with another drive, just like led by Cam Akers. Man, and then we'll get into Cam Akers later, but he definitely he looked very explosive and very 100%. If it wasn't for a few ticky tack calls, like he, I don't know if he would have hit 100 yards rushing, but he would have been close. He would have been far better than what he ended up with.
For sure. For sure.
Hmm. So this drive ends up with a very, very nice touchdown by Matthew Stafford. And let's get into this touchdown, Zach, because this drove me nuts when they didn't call this a touchdown. Not
Yeah. I mean, so to kind of go into this, I mean, one thing, I'm not really sure why we were QB sneaking it, especially on the second time. So, granted to Matthew Stafford getting it on the second time, but we went first first snap with a QB sneak didn't work. I'm kind of wondering why we just didn't have Sony Michel like push it through or like jump over the pile or something. Like it's kind of interesting. I was kind of interested in why Sean McVay did the QB sneak for the second try in a row. But definitely that call on the second one, you were just wasting time when someone clearly can see from above, hey, he's in. It was on the big Oculus screen on top. I mean, just look up there and you can definitely tell that he was in.
Well, I mean, so my argument is besides the whole fact whether they could see it or not, like if you're unsure, then you call it a touchdown and guess what? It's automatically reviewed if it's a touchdown. It's not
Yeah.
the other way if it's not called a touchdown. So if you get significant evidence that it's not a touchdown and it's clear that he didn't get there, you can call it back and it's auto reviewed and the team doesn't have to challenge it. But if you
Yeah.
do officiating the way they did it, if a team doesn't have timeout, let's say the Rams burned all 3 timeouts, they got screwed out of a touchdown.
Yeah,
And
that
that
it's
changes the entire game,
yeah, you're
potentially.
right. I mean, maybe they need to start going to like a goal line review. Any of them that are within, that 1 yard automatically goes to review. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in for the whole like what was that other NFL knockoff, the XFL,
XFL.
the XFL, where they had like this God mode and all these cameras from all these angles are picking up every play because you know I'm not a big fan of that, but I do think that there needs to be some adjustments in how some of these things are picked up. And we can let's get through this touchdown, and then we'll talk about the next kind of cycle of things on the next challenge that the Rams had to do. But let's finish. You want to finish up on the touchdown
Hmm.
here?
Yeah, Stafford gets it in. It was a bad call by the refs. It got overturned. Really good play. And I'm not 100% sure about Sonny Michel's stats on goal line with us, but I feel like he's been stopped on the goal line a decent amount. And you like QB sneak has very high percentage on the 1 yard line
Yeah.
throughout the league.
No,
So,
for sure, for sure. I don't know. I guess after the first time, I think I would I don't know. I guess I would rather have tried to go with Sony Michelle, but you're probably right. I mean, it's probably a better percentage. I'm also just thinking, you do want to make sure your quarterback isn't getting pummeled, and that's kind of putting him in that pummel situation 2 times in a row.
mhm. So after the Rams score, they're up 14-0. The Rams have another negative drive by the Cardinals. And at this point, Zach, I believe they have 4 drives for like a negative 8 yards. That's ridiculous. Um, Rams come back and they get a 3 and out of their own. This is the one where Stafford had that really nice deep pass, or not really nice. It was a good deep pass. He kind of underthrew Cam Akers. Cam Akers should have been able to catch it. It was a hard catch and not a perfect throw. It was kind of both of their faults in different aspects.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if this might have been a like Akers was kind of like the last read in Matthew Stafford's view, like he was going through his progression, and Cam Akers was the most open, but he was maybe the last read, and threw it. And when I rewatched the play, he kind of just turned and at too late to notice. And maybe if he would have turned, a half a sec sooner, he would have definitely caught it because he almost caught it at that point. But yeah, it's again Cam Akers. This is his second game. This is his first game, without limited snaps. Just trying to get back into that rhythm. I mean, I mean, obviously we all know he suffered that Achilles heel, before the season even started. So he hasn't really had that chemistry yet with Stafford, especially in these kind of pass throws.
Hmm. So after that point, the Cardinals come back. They have probably their only solid drive, which ends up in another punt after just some bad passes by Kyler Murray just being off. They also have a penalty on Beecham. So just another bad drive. Uh, Rams come back 3 and out. Just nothing good on this drive for the Rams. And then before the half, Cardinals run it once with 35 seconds left. Like at that point, you're down 21. You need to start chucking the ball and try to get a field goal. That's the thing that really saved the 49ers in their game against us, was they tried to desperately get any sense of momentum before the half. And the Cardinals just threw out the white flag after they got a 0 gain on a run.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure. They didn't even try. They kind of just let the time run out and didn't even try to do a deep pass or anything like that. I still hate when teams do that. You're down 21 points. You might as well try to make a big play. Did we go over the interception touchdown?
No. So yeah, that kind of got lost in translation. After the Rams punt for not only, but they punt for their second time. The Cardinals after a great special teams play, the Rams down it on the 1 yard line, and uh, Cardinals have a solid run to get on the 4 yard line. You have that really, really weird pass incomplete call that should have been called incomplete to start with, but McVay has to challenge it. It gets overturned.
And this is again where I'm like, before we actually get to the interception or the interception touchdown, but this is where I get again, like, they were discussing for so long. I mean, we wasted probably 10 minutes of them talking about it, and then they make the stupid call when everyone can clearly see that it wasn't right. And then Sean McVay had to challenge it, and they had to do the whole discussion all over again, but actually watch it and then confirm that it was reversed. It's like, at that point, if your judges, if your officials are there and you're discussing it for way more length of time, they should be able to. I mean, maybe they should have an internal challenge clock or somebody. They have officials. They have officials in New York. All these things that are watching this game as it is. And again, like, I don't want like them watching every angle of all these cameras and taking kind of the fun out of the game. But like, they're trying to figure out what to do. So why not use the resources you have to help them in those situations?
Mm-hmm. And again, if the Rams had, let's say, lost a challenge or didn't have any timeouts, you get screwed on that call. And it was very clearly like, and we're not being homers, like, if AJ Green had control and landed with his feet, that would have been a catch. He did not have control. Therefore, whenever he got hit and he lost control of the football, that's not a fumble. That is an incomplete pass.
Mm-hmm.
That is by the text of the NFL like rule books. That's what you have to follow. You may not like it, then lobby for it to be changed, but it's pretty clearly not a catch. And the refs need to do a better job of deliberating that or figuring it out on the first try.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it was clear. The replay show was clear. Everyone knew that it wasn't, and they just let it play out to the point where we had to throw the challenge flag. So, but thankfully we did, and it was reversed and everything was good, because then we get our defense interception with our pick six, thanks to Troy Reader's tip, and then caught by
David Long. Yeah, Zach, if you would have said you were going to say that sentence last week, I would have called you a madman.
Yeah, David Long has kind of had his ups and downs throughout the year, but he came in clutch for this. It gave the defense a boost. It gave the offense a boost. So I was really ecstatic about it.
No, I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. Like, we've called him out when he's had bad games. Last few games he's been in, he's been very good. He hasn't been noticeably bad. Now, again, when you have QBs running away from Aaron Donald and the hordes of Rams defenders, that makes your job covering a wide receiver a little bit easier because the QB has to get out the ball pretty fast. But overall, like, he's done a lot better. And Troy Reader's same situation. And I feel like, Zach, maybe you can disagree with me here or not. This game wasn't so much the stars of this Rams team having just a bunch of great moments. It was the rest of the roster around the stars. The stars were performing at a high level, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the roster had amazing plays. And when your rest of your roster is playing and your stars are being good, man, we saw the results here. It was a suffocating loss, a loss that could have been far worse for the Cardinals if the Rams had just tried in the fourth or third quarter and didn't get a little just conservative and respectful. At that point, we were just trying to get the win and get out of the building. And it just, what a performance.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, just within that play, when we punted the ball before the interception touchdown, we had Ben Skoranek, who, has had some penalties against him. He hasn't been really clutch, too much of a clutch in the receiving. He's done well when we needed him to be, but he gave us he got the ball down to the 1 yard line when Hecker punted it. And then we had Troy Reeder, which again, we've kind of criticized him a bit, and we'll get into the defensive highlights, but he was a signal caller this week, did an excellent job. And, with that tip ball, and then David Long Jr., getting the interception, the pick six, it was just something that the defense needed. It's what the team needed. You kind of went through the rest of the highlights of this half, and you look at it, and the Rams, they had 2 touchdowns, but they had 1, 2, 3 and outs, and 1 4 and out. But there was a lot of plays that happened in this, but it was there was still a little bit of rhythm that needs to be picked up. And that's probably, if I would have any suggestion that they need to fix for next week, it's that they need to get those drives to be a little bit further down and to knock off a little bit more time off the clock, and try to get more points, which I think they did definitely in the second half.
Well, I mean, let's have a little fairness here to the Rams. After that pick six, you're up 21-0, right? At that point in time, what you're trying to do is just get to the half, especially since you get ball to start. So when you put in that context, like, they went from just really trying fully on offense to more conservative, and I get people get annoyed by that.
Well, they get annoyed, especially when the team was down 17-0, and then ended up to being 17-3 in the half, and then coming out and losing the second half. And so I think that's what I think my fear in, especially when you're facing Tom Brady, is, coming into this week, it's going to be, you need to make sure that you're not, you need to do something with the ball. You have to convert it into points, because Tom Brady will convert it into points at some point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the context of this game, which we have to understand, each game is its own living entity almost. At that point, when it's up 21-0, and this Arizona team literally, I don't believe they really had positive yards. Well, no, they had positive yards only the drive after the pick six. So, when you have a team only having 30 yards on you the entire half, then yeah, I feel like you try to play a little bit more conservatively. It was a different situation with the 49ers being only up 17-0, and they were moving the ball on us relatively decently. They just kind of had drive stall out, and we were able to take advantage. This game a little bit different. I'll defend McVay a little bit there. We ended up half 21-0 going into the third quarter. Rams get the ball, and we have a nice 8-play, 75-yard, 4-minute drive to end in a really, really nice touchdown to Cooper Kupp. And this is the point in time in the game where I feel like most Rams fans started to breathe. This wasn't going to be a 49ers situation. The chances of a team coming back 28-0, it's happened, but it's so astronomically low. Everything from that point on has to go perfectly for the other team. And it just felt like the Cardinals weren't going to get their act together.
Yeah, definitely. And this was the drive. This is the drive that really solidified, Stafford's in it to win it. He's I feel like they're finally kind of getting their rhythm. They're doing the run game. They had way more rushing attacks than they did offensive attacks. They're not playing the long field. I felt at times Matthew Stafford was always trying to throw the deep pass, and they were doing a lot more of running the ball, short passes, getting it to where it needs to go without, forcing the ball. We in this touchdown drive before Cooper Kupp got it, we get that nice OBJ pass to Cam Akers for 40 yards. That was an amazing, and that's when I knew that the game was sealed. Even before they scored that touchdown, this team is so good, and I'm just so happy that they were able to do everything they wanted into this game, and everything that I felt they needed to do. Matthew Stafford got out of the hole, got out of the pocket. He moved the ball. He used his legs, all things that I was looking for. And I just couldn't be happier.
hmm Cardinals end up responding with their only really good drive of the entire game. 12 plays, 75 yards, but 6 minutes off the clock. And I feel like, Zach, that's in that type of situation, you had to either be scoring defensive touchdowns or you had to be scoring really quickly. And I just don't see the point in doing a 6 minute drive. At that point, you might as well just start chucking it down the field, because even if you score, if you're scoring what 8 points at 6 minutes a pop, you're not going to win.
Mhm.
Mathematically, it's impossible. Let alone if the Rams score anything after that. Rams end up coming back with another really solid drive, 50 yards. They end up having the kick a field goal after a drop pass. I believe that was Cooper Kupp dropping it on third down, if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, was that drive. Cardinals come back, end up kicking their own field goal. Rams end up having a very nice 9 play, 61-yard drive that ate up 6 minutes of clock. These are the types of drives that Super Bowl winning teams have to and need to make at the end of games, is long, hard fought drives to get points, to put away a team. And that effectively really sealed the game for the Rams, was getting that last field goal.
Oh yeah, for sure. And and we saw it. I mean, we saw them come out. Them coming back out, and that's all they did. I mean, they tried one more round of 5 more plays, and they just couldn't get anything. Even Kyle Murray on his last throw, a 4th and 9, he just threw it out of bounds. And I don't even know why. I mean, you're going to lose the ball anyways. But yeah, it was just the Cardinals were not what they were. They were 7-0 when they started off. I don't know if really losing Hopkins was that. I mean, I know one player can affect a team, but you know the Rams have come through worse, and they're coming out on the other side of things. And yeah, this Cardinals team just was not in it this week.
Yeah, Hopkins doesn't make up for what, 23 points. He doesn't make up 23 points. That's just, he doesn't. Um, After the start of the season, I just think it comes down to Cliff Kingsbury. I feel like his scheme for long term, when teams get tape, he just doesn't do a good time adjusting. And we see McVay struggle with that somewhat, but McVay always seems to find a way to adjust just enough to start winning games on the latter half of the season. And I feel like Cliff Kingsbury hasn't figured that out yet, because this is 2 years in a row, this year being a little bit better, where they start off really hot and they just fall apart on the latter half of the season.
Yep. All right, ready to get into quarter two, talking about the offense and the defense?
Yep, let's dig into these babies.
All right, so let's talk about some stats. Number one, let's see. So Matthew Stafford was 13 for 17. That is right. He only had 17 throwing attempts for 202 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Sonny Michel, 13 carries, 58 yards. Cooper Kupp, 5 receptions, 61 yards, and 1 touchdown. OBJ was right behind him, 4 receptions, 54 yards, 1 touchdown, and he did throw a 40-yard bomb to Cam Akers. Cam Akers had 1 reception for 40 yards, thanks to OBJ, but then also had 17 carries for 55 yards. So this offensive team was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the great thing about these numbers, really, Zach, is it's not one person. It was everyone contributing in different facets. And when you have a team like that, who are you going to focus on? You want to focus on Cooper Kupp? Well, OBJ will still catch the touchdowns in the red zones. Tyler Higbee will catch the touchdowns in red zones. Oh, you want to double bracket Tyler Higbee? Cooper Cup's going to catch a touchdown. Like it's pick your poison. And when we have Cam Akers, let's not misunderstand this. Cam Akers, the way he played was so electric. It felt like at any moment he could break a big run or he could break a big gain. And when you add that to an offense, it's just like you can't cover them all. It's impossible.
You're totally right. And I almost think OBJ is getting a little bit of Cooper Cup in him. Like they're really starting, like he's really starting to see like what Cooper Cup can do. Because I could see OBJ. He was fighting for yards, like trying to spin out and trying to get additional yards. Like, and Cooper Cup, he doesn't know what out of bounds is. Like most players, if they are a foot away from an out of bounds, they just step out, but not Cooper Cup. He swings back in and gets another 4, 5, 6, 10 yards down the road. And, these are the players you need to be successful and to keep the drives alive. My favorite stat, probably from the offensive side, is Matthew Stafford's rushing. 6 carries for 22 yards, 3.7 yards averaged. His longest was 10. You need a quarterback who's able to, get out of the pocket and know if he can even get 4 yards to 10 yards, I'm happy, and I'm ecstatic that he did that.
Yeah, you gotta be able to take those free yards, right? When they drop everyone in coverage or they blitz you so heavily on one side. If you can go run and they give you a free first down, take it. Just be smart about how you slide. I think that's the biggest thing when QB scramble. They have to know to slide, and for a QB, it's not worth an extra yard or two for you to get tackled. I rather you only get 3 yards than get 5 yards and get tackled and hurt, and then you're out of the game. And it's like you do no one any good if you do that.
For sure. And then we move to the defensive side. We got the defensive pick six from Troy Reader's tip into David Logg, making that score. Let's see. We have the Marquise Copeland pick. We have 2 sacks. Let's see. Do you remember who those were? One was Aaron Donald, right?
Aaron Donald split one, and then I believe Von Miller had the other.
That's right. Did he split it with Gaines?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. That was the one where they kind of both got on him. I mean, this defense just played lights out. I mean, as we went through the highlights, for the first 4 Cardinal drives, they had a negative 11 yards. When OBJ threw that 40-yard pass, OBJ had more yards than Kyler Murray at that point. Like, what is that? That was in the second half.
Yeah, that was in the beginning part of the third quarter. In the third quarter, OBJ had more passing yards than Kyler Murray. That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
I couldn't believe it. And I guess the one surprise, and I think the one thing that we were all worried about going into this was our defense is that we were lacking our starters in the safety position. And who was going to be our signal caller with Fuller being out, Rapp on concussion protocol? Who were we going to rely on? I mean, yes, we had Ramsey who picked up the reins for the week prior, but we can't. I mean, as much as I love Ramsey and I he has the mind to do the calling. If you're the cornerback though, if you're a back, you're going to be on one of the sides of the field at one point in time. You may be, more towards the center, but you have to be able to talk to both sides of the field and, the front and the back and everything. And, I think we were all a little worried. Number one, when, there was rumors that Weddle was going to come back and he was going to be the signal caller. But then 2, the only other option really was Troy Reader. And, as much as he was successful last year, he kind of declined a little bit this year, especially in the first half. But I think he did a fantastic job being the signal caller up against this Cardinals offense.
No disagreement. I mean, he did a fantastic job. When you can hold that Cardinals team to 11 points and you score 7, that's pretty big. That's a good job. And we'll see if it continues. I feel like problem with Trey Reader has been consistency of performance. So hopefully his signal calling isn't much worse. Uh, we'll see if Taylor Rapp will come back and if he'll retain his signal caller, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit here in a few minutes.
So let's break down. Going to quarter 3, we're going to go into some Rams news. You want to talk about some injury updates?
Yes. Injury updates for the Rams. This is from Stu Jackson. He is a staff writer for the Rams. He basically said that Sean McVay has said Andrew Whitworth has gotten his ankle and knee rolled up on, and they are waiting for scans to get back. He will be, I believe he'll be day to day. um, it looked bad game time, but even if he can't start this game, I'm fully confident in No Boom. I mean, he has only ever performed when he stepped in. The drop off, there is a drop off, but it's not much. And I'm confident that No Boom will just keep this offense rolling like he did this last game.
For sure. As far as the secondary for our offensive line, no boom I think is right underneath our offensive line. If Whitworth ever does decide to retire, which not really hoping for that anytime soon, yeah, I think no boom is the one who would fill that spot.
Mhm. McVay also said that David Long's knee is trending in the positive direction, and then Ernest Jones is still doubtful for this week. So it seems like Ernest Jones is trending in the negative direction, and that David Long is trending in the positive direction.
Yeah, I it seemed like they said that there's a possibility that he was coming back for Ernest Jones, but more just opening up that door for him to come back.
Yeah, and credit to our linebackers. I feel like ever since Troy Reader got benched, he's played a lot better when he's came back in the stead for Ernest Jones. And I feel like when Ernest Jones gets back, him he'll be the future of our linebacking core, and Troy Reader will be a good rotational piece like he's been. All right, Zach, let's kind of break down the NFC uh, landscape right now. So if the Rams win and beat Tampa Bay, which we'll preview that here soon, if we win, it's either Green Bay or the 49ers. Talk about pick your poison. Either face a team with a Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers, or face the team that has beaten you 6 times in a row. Uh, Either way, if Green Bay wins, we will be going to Lambeau in nice. I think it's forecasted for around 16 degrees, so it's not the 11 degrees it would be this weekend. Slightly warmer. I don't know if 5 degrees makes much difference because you're still freezing. Uh, but Lambeau it would be, or if the 49ers win and pull off that upset, we would be playing them in SoFi for a second time this season.
Yeah, this is yeah, it's like that double-edged sword. It's like I don't really know who I want in. Um, I kind of want the 49ers maybe. I feel like the Rams really want a revenge game against them, and it would kind of be bittersweet to have an NFC, championship game going all in on the West.
Yeah, I feel like I've gone back and forth between this, but ultimately it comes down to like what do you think the chances are in that seventh game that they not only beat the Rams, but they beat the Rams playing for a chance to go to Super Bowl after being so cocky the last two games. The amount of just trash talk they have laid on this team, and they have humiliated them in different ways, completely different ways, last 4 times. Honestly, I feel like the Rams would end up blowing out the 49ers. I didn't say that last game. I just really think that this team has they would be angry. They will be livid if the 49ers come in and they continue to just be disrespectful to this Rams team because they have won 6 individual games.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where I would hope the Rams fans learn from their mistake and make sure that the SoFi Stadium was fully packed with Rams fans so that they didn't have that. I mean, I think that, not saying that that's an excuse, kind of throwing that's kind of what McVay would said, but at the same time, you got to fill that stadium, and if you can't fill it, the other team's going to. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna watch the game. It's probably one of the other games that I'll watch, but I really won't have. I guess at this point it'll be what it is, but the Rams going into a cold stadium is may not be the most ideal.
hmm Not to mention that last game, that was a play or like win or lose for the 49ers. They had to win that to get in the dance. The Rams, not necessarily, not saying the Rams didn't have motivation. They should have had, we thought they were going to have plenty of motivation when we broke down that game and previewed it. But, I feel like the drive is different when you're going for the NFC crown. That is a different type of ball game, and I feel like the Rams will match perfectly the desire to win this game, both halves.
For sure. For sure.
So let's start breaking down our next game, which is Buccaneers, or sorry, Rams at Buccaneers. I forget, we played them in week 3. We end up winning that game 34-24 Rams. It was such a long time ago, Zach, but it was a really solid game by the Rams. Really wasn't close. We kind of just ran away with it there in the third quarter. And what are some of the things you are necessarily looking for when we face off next week against Tampa?
Yeah, I definitely hinted on it, I think, towards the beginning, but really making sure our offense stays on the field, making sure that they're continuing drives, and not settling for anything less than a field goal. Again, we know what Tom Brady can do with the football. We know, that he has those playmakers who can catch the ball and score those touchdowns. So if we can contain that a little bit, I think we're going to be fine. Especially if we do what we did, in week 3, keeping the ball ahead, keeping it always a 1-2 score game. I think that's really, really what we're looking for.
Yeah, Stafford, I believe, had his only 4 touchdown game of the year against the Bucks. Really lights out performance by Stafford. That was when we were like, well, this was the guy we traded for. This is why we got him to win games like that. And we're gonna ask him to do it again, but this time at Tampa against Tom Brady in the playoffs. And I hate the kind of like just say it, but if you want to win the rings, you got to go through Tom Brady, you got to go through Aaron Rodgers, or you got to go through a 49ers team that has beaten you 6 times. And no one can say, if the Rams get through all that they didn't earn their spot in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. Um, our offense needs to be clicking, and I think it will. I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. Especially now we have Sony Michel and Cam Akers. I think we're going to run the ball efficiently. If we can keep the ball efficiently, we can keep things contained. Not always trying to do the deep throws unless it's there. I think we're going to be good. I'm not really concerned about the defense. The defense showed up this week. I feel like they have been showing up. They may have kind of went down a little bit on the second half of the 49ers game. But other really than that, they've been very strong, especially since the bye week. And so, I'm just hopeful that we can at least get Taylor Rapp back. I'm still confident in the crew that we have, but having a little bit more options in the safety room. We didn't even talk about Weddle coming back and his performance. I don't even know if he played in the second half, but but in the first half he did do some good plays, and I think he's good to have out there and good to have as a resource. But I definitely am going to want at least Rapp hopefully back.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely looks like he's going to be all right for rotation senses, just putting a body back there. Looking back at our week 3 game, a big key to why we won is because we stuck to the running game. We did have 20 carries, but we took our shots. We had 38 passing attempts. That is ridiculous. But Stafford was able to connect on a lot of them, averaging 9 yards. He got those 4 TDs. We only had a single sack. And I think that's kind of like how you have to beat this Bucks team is you make them respect the run enough to where they have to commit numbers in the boxes, and then you can throw over their secondary. And if we can do that, connect, not have any big turnovers, um, it'll be hard for uh, Tom Brady to come back, especially with a few of his weapons missing in this game.
Definitely. And, I was going back and looking at the specs, and, I didn't realize, our, kind of lead receiver, I guess, was Deshaun Jackson with 3 receptions and 120 yards. Um, Cooper Kupp was 9 receptions, 96 yards. So really he was more of the dominant player. But man, yeah, this team just looks so different than it did before. We didn't have Cam Akers for the whole season, but, Henderson was out that game. We had Deshaun Jackson. We still had Robert Woods. It was just it just felt like a different team. But I think it's a team that still works. I really have confidence in this team, especially after last night's Monday night's victory. I have full confidence in this team going forward. I was kind of critical. I've been critical on Matthew Stafford, but really he showed me a lot of the things that I've been wanting him to show. And we do what we did last night. Modify it obviously for Tampa Bay, but just keeping your awareness out there, I think is going to be great.
Yeah, and I know we didn't mention it, but one of the biggest decisions, and I said this on Twitter after the game, biggest decision Stafford made the entire night was I believe it was during our first drive or it might have been our second, but he took a sack. And we have seen so many times, especially in the latter half of this season, is when the rest of the team is playing good and he doesn't have a wide open receiver, he'll force throw it and not take the sack. And that's been a very big, that's been one of his worst attributes lately as being our QB. And he made a very smart decision. He took the sack. Yes, we didn't get a field goal out of it. I know people said that sucked, but I was giving a compliment. I'm like, you rather have that sack than him try to extend the play, get a fumble, and them get 7 off of it. Or like that's how crazy plays happen is when you try to play hero ball. And he doesn't need to do that on this team. 90% of the time, the rest of the team will be able to pick him up. It's not Detroit. You don't need to scrape your way for any or every win. And he has to be able to trust his team. I think he's starting to do that more and more.
So where are we at with how's Tampa's team looking as far as injury stuff goes?
Yeah, so I got some updates from Carmen Vitolea. I can't say that name at all. I apologize if you ever listen to this. Bruce Arians basically updated saying Tristan Wirfs is in a boot and he will be day to day. Him and Ryan Jensen, both, I believe they're both tackles, are day to day. So they have both their starting tackles day to day. That's not a good sign for Tampa Bay going up against this D line, which was just it would have got like not double digit sacks, but they would have got 7 or 8 if Kyler Murray was, let's say, a statue in the pocket. If he wasn't moving around and throwing the ball away, like he holds it for a second longer, we get tons of sacks that game.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention Josh Wells, which I believe is a backup um, guard, also got hurt, but he's day to day also. And some update on their running backs. Fournette is still kind of trying to see if he can go full speed on his hamstring injury, and they do not know if they can do that yet. And Ronald Jones is still unable to make any cuts on his injured ankle. So I would assume neither of those guys are going to play, and they're going to be stuck with their backup running backs against, again, a very, very good defensive line for the Rams.
Did they get rid of? Oh, is Le'Veon Bell still there?
No.
Okay, they cut him after a game.
Yeah, I believe they did.
Okay.
Yeah, so Zach, do you have any big matchups for this Tampa Bay versus Rams game?
You know, obviously Ramsey on on the receiver is going to be. That's the one thing we didn't hear about, as I feel like Ramsey's name wasn't called, but maybe once the entire game, and I'm fine with that. I am fine with if you don't hear that Ramsey was in cover, like because they're not throwing it to him. Completely fine with that. I'm not really looking for too many key matchups. It would be great for Aaron Donald to get 2 sacks against Tom Brady. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for anyone to give a sack to Tom Brady, but no, I have confidence in this team. Any other team, if we were going up against Green Bay, I would be a little bit more fearful than I am against the Bucks. Not saying that it's going to be an easy game, because I think it is going to be a tough game, and it's a game that I think our offense is going to need to do just a little bit more. I think the defense will be fine, but I think the offense just needs to do just a little bit more to make sure that this game doesn't go lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is this D line versus that offensive line. This Tampa Bay team doesn't have the advantage that the Cardinals team had, which was a mobile QB who he was able to get out of the pocket enough where he had the possibility of making plays, and he just didn't make them. Tom Brady ain't doing that. So if the Rams can provide the same amount of pressure as they did on Murray, it's going to be even worse night for the Buccaneers than it was for Cardinals. Now, Buccaneers have better offensive line, possibly, depending on these injuries. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out before the game. Zach, you want to go ahead and give us your prediction? Because we've actually been pretty close both games.
And I was thinking about that when we did the 49ers game. I think I said something close to 17-24, and then they blew it. So I feel like I was almost spot on with that one. But anyways, prediction. I do think this is going to be a different game than it was last, Monday night's game. If I'm going to think about it, let's see. I would say we're looking at. I think we're going to see a close game. I'm thinking 37 to 27-31 Rams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be honest, when I had my playoff brackets and I did my predictions, I had the Rams losing in the divisional round again. Um, it just, to me, this team after the 49ers loss, I didn't know if they had the drive to be able to put together 4 quarters of consistent good football, right? We haven't seen it all year besides you could say one Tampa Bay game, one Cardinals game. Um but we haven't seen it consistently. But going into this game, the way the Bucks have played, the way we played, I got to go with the Rams here, 23-17. Um, I just feel like it'll be a close game. Tom Brady is going to have a chance to go and get the touchdown for the point lead, and we stop them on fourth down.
Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up unless you have anything else you want to add.
No.
All right.
Hopefully, Buda Baker gets healthy and we have a really, really good Sunday.
Me too. I want to keep this rolling. I want to keep this positivity going. So that ends it for this week's episode of East Coast Rams podcast. You can always send us questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. My handle is at Zach Mayer. Ashton's is at Rams fan Ashton1. So yeah, let's I want to keep this victory Monday, Tuesday going on for next week. Keep it up, keep the hype up, keep the energy up, keep the positivity up. Do whatever you can to get hyped and get ready for this game on Sunday.
Definitely. Let's go get it done on Sunday, Ramley. Horns
All
up.
right, horns up, guys.